They say every day is for the thief, one day for the owner of the house. But ICPC, the Anti-Corruption Commission, has reversed the role. It is now every day for the owner of the house. If you're involved in bribery, over-invoicing, or any shady deal, the day of reckoning has come. ICPC, the Anti-Corruption Commission, is watching you. If you're reported for any corrupt practice, you'll be investigated, prosecuted, and punished. Corruption is harmful to our nation. Join the campaign against it by reporting any corrupt practice to ICPC, the Anti-Corruption Commission.
Let's we join hands with ICPC, make them better.
Let's make Nigeria great again.
ICPC, they want to.
Come on, for corruption.
Break the chain of corruption now. Don't give, don't take. This message is brought to you by ICPC, the Anti-Corruption Commission.
The signing of the Freedom of Information Bill into law by former President Goodluck Jonathan on May 28, 2011 marked another giant stride in the battle to enthrone accountability in Nigeria's public life. The Freedom of Information Act, otherwise referred to as FOIA, was expected to deal a death blow to corruption and lack of transparency in governance. This is our area of focus on today's edition. Also on the program, we shall bring you drama, ethics and values, and many more. But first, Ruth Awodi is standing by with anti-corruption stories. My name is Murna Barnabas Atiai.
Welcome to this segment on anti-corruption stories. I am Ruth Awodi. A Federal Capital Territory High Court sitting in Jabi, Abuja, has sentenced a civil servant in the office of the Auditor General of the Federation, James Ayodele Lebi, to 2 years imprisonment for using fake certificates from the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria, ICAN, to gain promotion in his office. Justice Y. Halilu also imposed a 100,000 naira fine on the convict, who will spend his jail term in prison in Kefi, Nasarawa State, following the conclusion of a case brought against him by ICPC. Earlier, ICPC, in a one-count charge, had told the court that the convict had approached the Director of Administration and Human Resources in the Auditor General's office with a fake ICANN certificate requesting that he be converted and upgraded from the position of an executive officer to that of a senior auditor. The judge, while passing the judgment, said that the convict deserved to be sentenced accordingly as punishment, as well as to serve as deterrence to others from committing the same crime. He called on the federal government to ensure strict vetting of its workers to prevent those with fake certificates from hiding in the system. The acting chairman of ICPC, Dr. Musa Usman Abubakar, has advised traditional leaders to thoroughly investigate individuals they want to honor in order to save the institution from embarrassment and stop honoring and conferring chieftaincy titles on corrupt persons. He gave the advice at the Citizens Engagement Forum held at Ife Central Local Government Area of Osun State recently. The acting chairman also noted that corruption does not exist only within the corridors of power. He therefore stressed the need for a joint effort by the entire citizenry to fight the problem of corruption in Nigeria.
It is well known that corruption poses a serious challenge to development in any society. In Nigerian public and private sector, corruption has become endemic, and its devastating impact on the nation's development is felt at all levels. To root out corruption, therefore, grassroots participation in governance is necessary to promote accountability and transparency in government activities, as well as engender good governance.
The Citizens Engagement Forum was conceived by ICPC as an outreach platform to engage the grassroots in the fight against corruption. That will be all on this segment. Corruption Must Go continues with Murna.
Corruption not in my country.
You see, I don't pity those corrupt officials. They are terrible.
All of them are thieves.
It's those small corruption that is killing this country.
Benny, it's true.
Greetings to you, sir.
Greetings, my brother.
From the power company. I discover you connected illegally.
It's not only me. Even Baba Femi here is connected indirectly. Even with our prepaid meter, he connected it.
That is even more.
Yarisika connected it indirectly.
No. It is wrong to connect electricity illegally.
Young man, I have a son like you.
You are not supposed to offer me bribe. Bribery is corruption. Not in my country. Daniel, take off the light.
Yeah.
Stop corruption now.
Corruption not in my country.
If you're just tuning in, this is Corruption Must Go. As important as this FOIA legislation is, how many Nigerians are aware of it? Here are their views.
Research focus on law in development and my work and my teaching and research has been focused on citizen empowerment, using human rights, governmental accountability, using human rights. I also teach gender and the law. So much of my work is around the issues of development. And to that extent, I have done a lot of work on citizen empowerment. This is only one out of many.
Thank you. Do you think the Nigerian culture is ready socially, mentally for this?
I never see culture as something that is only an entrance, to the extent that by its very nature, culture is dynamic. Something is not culture if it is a fossil, if it can never change. Culture evolves. It may not evolve, and the evolution of culture should not be so rapid. And on occasions when it is very rapid, it has actually evolved in what we call anomie, breakdown, because it's slow and sometimes it's invisible, but it is actually taking place. So for me, I see culture, yes, we have had a culture in public administration which has been more closed. Official Secrets Act meant that the public officer or public official was not inclined to giving out information, and the layers of permission that you had to obtain before you get access to information precluded citizens from asking for information. And in that context, citizens started to think that they had no right to information. Now, what the Freedom of Information Act is trying to do is evolve a new culture. It gives protection to the public official who gives out information, so they can no longer be penalized under public service rules. It compels public institutions to change in the direction, a paradigm shift in the direction of giving information upfront. And hopefully, as that permeates, we will move away from this thing about information as property, private property of government, that why should you have access to it, what do you want it for? And the jurisprudence that is slowly coming out of the courts, slowly is suggesting that the courts are also buying into it. We may not have seen the kind of radical change that we want to see, but we're beginning to see some change taking place. I know that some institutions have done some trainings, but dismantling what has been for hundreds of years is not going to happen necessarily in one day. But that you cannot see the radical change, you can't see the tree felled, does not mean that where you're axing at it, nothing is given. It is given, and one day you'll get there.
To be honest, let me say this. The FOI Act is the best piece of legislation we have in Nigeria. If you look at the provisions, you cannot but say that this is a very fantastic piece of legislation. Like we always say in SERAP, basically it's all about the resources of the people should be used for and in their best interest. And the only way citizens can actually demand accountability, one of the best way, is through the use of the FOI Act. So it's highly and very significant. If you are saying that sovereignty resides with the people, then the people should actually be kept informed of the goings in the affairs of the people. So it's a very fantastic act. Definitely. Corruption thrives when you have secrecy. When things are done are opaque, when things are not open, when things are not transparent. The significance of the importance of the FOI Act in combating corruption is simply saying that things should be done transparently, openly. One beautiful thing about it is the act is proactive in nature. Proactive in the sense that the act is saying that even before people ask, these are the things you need to keep. So you don't get to wait till people ask for those information. And several times we've been able to educate people that why is it that they are said within 7 days? Because the act is saying that you must have those information in the first place. So the 7 days is not the time you start to go look for those information. Already you have the information, so you just pick it and give it to the people. So if you have another that says that things should be done openly, information, documents, data should be collected and well kept, then it shows that corruption will definitely be curbed and reduced.
If the FOIA was expected to deal a death blow to corruption, what are its provisions that are supposed to help it achieve this objective? How many stakeholders have taken advantage of it for the good of the public?
Well, FYA, the Freedom of Information Act that was passed in 2011, and specifically on May 28, was just to increase access to information by Nigerian citizens, not only the Nigerian media. But people tend to misunderstand what the FOIA Act is all about. It's not only for the media, it's to enable all Nigerians, even including illiterate, to have access to information. Well, it has helped to fight corruption in the country, and it can still do more to fight corruption. We have been taking advantage of it. Whistleblowers have been working, and they are protected under the Freedom of Information Act. People have been, corporate organizations, lawyers, journalists have been taking advantage of Freedom of Information Act. I can tell you that we have such anti-corruption agencies like SERAP, CACO. They have been using even Media Rights Agenda. They have been using Freedom of Information Act. I think I will tell you that I've been a bit lucky because of the Freedom of Information Act and because of the conditions under which MDAs and public institutions are compelled to disclose information. Each time I ask for information, the obstacles were always not there for me. I've been lucky to get information, and in one instance, there was only one instance that I will tell you the benefit of Freedom of Information Act as far as my own profession is concerned. I was taken to court by a lawyer, J.K. Gazama, and one of the public institutions, Bureau for Public Procurement, provided all the necessary information I needed. It was a 1 billion naira case, and I won the case based on information provided by the BPP. It would have been worse for me if the BPP had not provided the information. I wrote to them, and they stood by what the statement they issued upon which I based my story. They also came to court to testify that they gave me the same information. So it was a dead case for the senior advocate who took me to court. So, left to me, if Nigerians take advantage of the Freedom of Information Act without being mischievous, it will work fine.
Thank you very much, sir.
Because before the Freedom of Information Act, I have doubt whether the DPP will be bold enough to come up with such information. And of course, ICPC and the EFCC, the Code of Conduct Bureau, they have been providing information which we are using. So I can tell you that the Freedom of Information Act can assist in fighting corruption. The story I did was on corruption, about the unbundling of the PHCN. A consultant was engaged, a legal consultant, when even the PHCN itself has been wound up. So there was no basis for that, for consultancy and for paying 950 million naira to a legal consultant when PHCN was no longer existing. So I stayed on the story, and eventually the aggrieved went to court. the Bureau of Public Procurement, I invoked the Freedom of Information Act. The Bureau of Public Procurement came to court and defended the position. The first thing I noticed is that since the Freedom of Information Act came into being, the level of compliance by some MDAs has been very poor because of the fear of the unknown. But they didn't even know that in Section 12 of the Act, there are even provisions, there are conditions under which you may not disclose information if they are genuine. So what I would like to see in the coming years is for Nigerians to take advantage of the Freedom of Information Act and for the MDAs and public institutions to comply with the Act. If I'm to rate the level of compliance now, I'll put it at 30 to 40%, which is not significant enough.
Corruption not in my country.
Now, yeah?
Yes, Oga.
Okay.
Where I go come find 300 naira change?
I better try look for change now. When they do business. Hey, Timmy. I did, bro. I be. I beg, give me 200 naira. Make I take sort out this guy. If blessing no get change.
Take it, give us.
I said 200.
Give her 100 naira.
Yeah.
Okay, I agree to pay 200 naira.
How much you think they carry people from that place we carry the chair?
Oga.
What they touch me?
Now 100 naira. He agreed to pay.
Because that was what you said was the fair. Why you not go pay you? Why you they extort your customer? You see this corruption, what would they hear for news? They see for people everywhere. Now be this so. This is corruption, not in our country.
Stop corruption now.
In the words of James Madison, the 4th President of the United States of America, a popular government without popular information or the means of acquiring it is but a prologue to a farce or a tragedy, or perhaps both. A people who mean to be their own governor must arm themselves with the power which knowledge gives. It is evident from the foregoing that as Nigerians, we have been provided with a weapon to secure information from government entities in order to enthrone accountability and probity. We should therefore not shirk this responsibility because if we do this, the consequences are obvious. That's our package on this week's edition. Remember, you can make enquiries and suggestions via our toll-free numbers as shown on the screen. You can also watch the program on our YouTube channel, www.youtube.com/ICPC Nigeria. I am Murna Barnabas Atiai. Bye for now.